Okay, great. So, hey everyone, my name is Sean Cook. I am the Deputy Director for ESW HQ. And tonight I'm going to be talking about two of the HQ programs that we offer that your chapter can apply for, get funding for, and support your projects. And we're going to start with bill for project grants. So we're going to go over a bit of an overview, changes if any of you have applied from last year, from 2022, just a general program timeline and some application tips when you apply. So what is Project Grants? Project Grants supports any new or any existing ongoing projects that you have, and these can be from just an idea, just the R&D phase, or if you're ready to implement those projects, you can apply. So it's quite a broad number of ways of projects that you can apply for. Any chapter that's in good standing that has paid its dues can apply for a project grant, whether you're new or you're old. And we do highly encourage that if you haven't applied for a project grant before that you can apply, but if you, of course, if you got one, even just you got one last semester, you can still apply. We just prioritize those that are newer, those of course in high financial need, and also have a larger community impact, whether that be on your campus or outside your campus. So what's the grant range? It's typically $250 to $1,000. The average is around $700 to $750. So keep that in mind when you're applying. $1,000, we fund a few of those. I would say we fund maybe one or two of those. So just keep that in mind that the average is a little bit lower than that, and we keep the higher range up for projects that are most high financial need. And the grant period is for 1 year when you have been awarded your grant.
Hey Sean, sorry, it looks like your screen cut out. I'm not sure. It was there, but it's now
Okay.
loading. Sorry about that.
It's okay. What do you see right now?
It just says loading dot dot dot, but we had seen it at the start. Okay, well now I can see it again.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, now it says loading again.
Okay. I
Doesn't
just
load
pressed,
presenter mode.
yeah. Let me know.
Okay, I'm still seeing loading.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. It probably can't do it in the full view, which is totally fine. So project grant highlights. So this program has been running since 2014. 37 projects have been funded across North America. That includes Canada and Mexico as well. We've awarded a total of over $20,000, impacted about 25 underserved communities. Project teams have worked with over 52 partners that can either be corporate partners or community nonprofit partners. And we've also had about 400 ESW members involved with these kinds of projects. So this is kind of a map, and we're going to send this slide deck out so you can go and click on that link down below. But it'll show the projects that have been funded so far with a little description so you can get an idea of what kind of projects that we typically fund. So the benefits of project grants is, of course, you can receive up to $1,000 in project funding. We would feature you on social media and a blog. Maybe we can get some news outlet kind of outreach out there so we can widely promote your project. You would also get an invitation to ESWCon 23. And what that means is that you would get registration for the conference. So your registration would be comped for that project team. You'd also be eligible for the project maintenance fund. So one semester after your project is over, so typically that would be the fall semester, we can offer a one-time $250 grant in order if you need to make repairs to your project or expand your project. So for example, someone last semester with an aquaponics project needed to get new pumps and also get an Arduino board. So they use that 250 grant to support that. So what changed from 2022? We really wanted to reduce the amount of workload that chapters had to put in into applying. Typically, it takes a couple hours actually to do a submission. So we really wanted to reduce that time a lot, since a lot of people were complaining that it was a really long form. So proposals, we used to have to submit them on sort of a Word document, PDF, and now that's all done through a Google form, which will save your progress along the way. We used to have chapters submit like a pre-interest form before they actually applied, so that's no longer needed. We took off the project sustainability question. Why is this project sustainable? Because I think it's kind of like we already know what you're going to say. It's why it's sustainable, ESW sustainable organization. So we took that off. Line item budgets with links are no longer required. So we don't need a detailed budget. So you can just say, we need like $100 for like sensors or something, or $500 for rain barrels. It does not have to be specific. We just want to get an idea of where the money is going to be going from, and a shorter turnaround as well. So that was a big issue that came up. So you would typically apply starting in August. And if it took like 2 months to get funding, your project is essentially in limbo and you really can't start your project until you get that funding. So we really wanted to reduce the review period down to about a month, because we were able to tighten down the process and also clean up the form as well. And we're now accepting proposals for K through 12 outreach projects or events. So if you're doing an event like introduce someone to engineering day, or maybe you have a club outreach event for your engineering department, you can get a grant for that. Maybe you're doing an elementary school workshop or something like that, for example. So it's not just technical projects. You can also submit for K through 12 outreach events. So like I said, the general timeline is the Google form opens in July, and typically people apply from August to December. And this is a rolling timeline, so you don't have to wait until December to apply. We just accept applications whenever you're ready to accept them. And again, the turnaround is 4 weeks, and about a couple days to issue either a check or a PayPal statement. And so from the RFP, when we accept applications to project closeout, it's typically around an 8-month time period for people to complete their projects. You are required to submit a project report at the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. And of course, we offer the project maintenance fund in the fall semester to eligible chapters. And here's some application tips just based on prior feedback. Keep your answers brief and concise. We don't want you to fill out a really long form about your proposal. We prefer really concise language, so that way we can get through the application quicker and make the review period quicker as well. You should focus on why your project is important and how you will execute it, rather than giving us a long background description of your project. If you're collaborating with another org, we'd like to know, so you can list those collaborations on the form. And again, avoid too much background info, such as data, statistics, resources, links, and stuff like that. We really just want to know about your project and how you're going to execute that project. And of course, if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. Again, we've been running this program for many years. We have a lot of questions and feedback that we can offer you, especially from other chapters who have previously applied and were awarded grants. We have no problem sharing a sample proposal here and there. So if you would like to see that, definitely reach out to us prior to submitting your proposal. So now I'm going to go over Build Day real quick. So Build Day, it's somewhat similar to project grants, except it is a little bit of a longer term program. We like to call it design first, build second, because the program is more like R&D in the beginning, and then you actually build it out in a physical event, or kind of like a community service event, where you actually build the project with the community partners that you've worked with. And so any chapter in good standing, of course, can apply. We prefer, again, new chapters. And if you have done a build day project and before, we do restrict it to those who have applied in the last 2 years. That way we can get other chapters who've not had this opportunity to apply. It must have a high community impact. So this program is all about working in the community, and that community is outside of your campus. So it's not for those that are on campus community for students, but rather for the community outside. So if you're working with elementary school students, for example, or you're working with a food bank, those are the kind of community partners that we're thinking of. And we do prefer a strong leadership. So a chapter that has the resources to commit to this project, because it is a bit more involved than a typical chapter project that you might do for a semester or 2 semesters. And we do prefer that you have some experience working in communities. So those would be off campus. It's not a requirement, but we had more success with those that have prior experience. The grant range is typically up to $2,000, so it's $1,000 more than project grants. The process of getting the money is a little bit different. It goes on a reimbursement process, so you can either be reimbursed at the end of the project, or you could buy materials as you're going and we reimburse you. The average amount, though, is around $1,500, but that's not to say that we can award you the full amount. And how it differs from project grants, again, there's more funding. There's professional design reviews that we do later in the year, where you would present your project to a panel of professional engineers and you'd get valuable feedback of your project. We would assign you a engineering mentor, technical engineering mentor based on your project needs. There's a community service, again, build day event that you would have to conclude with your project. And there's also an outreach component. So if you're doing K through 12 outreach, you would need to do some kind of service event or workshop or something in addition to completing the build day service event. So build day highlights, we've been running this program since 2019. And since 2019, we've funded about 10 projects across North America. That's including Canada. We've awarded over 15,000. We've impacted over 15 underserved communities. And we served over 2,000 community members. So there is a lot of high impact in terms of community outreach rather than on-campus outreach. And then here are some two sample projects, both in 2019 and in 2020, respectively. Again, we'll send this out so you can read more into it, but you'll notice that, one was done at a therapeutic senior center, and that impacted 200 residents. And one was done at an elementary school, and that impacted 300 students. So these projects are very high impact and high community based. So the general timeline for build day, call for proposals, they open in late August and they close late September. So this is not a rolling application like it is for project grants. It does have a set open and close period. And then we'll take about 2 weeks to review the project, and we may reach out to some teams for clarifications or on a phone call or video chat just to get more information about your project. We'll select teams, about typically around 3 to 4 teams in October, and then we'll do a kickoff in November. Design reviews are typically done between January and February, and then you would do your build day event typically from March to May, and then you would do your outreach event typically concluding in May. So build day benefits, just to go over it really quick, $2,000 in project funding, recognition, comp registration to ESW Con, design reviews, technical mentors, and we do offer a stipend for the project maintenance fund, but it is double of project grants. It's $500. So, yep, that's it. I know I went over it really fast, but does anyone have any questions?
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. And just wanted to ask about the conference mentions in the slides. So on both the project grants and build day, it mentions invitation to the conference. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like for those chapters?
Yeah, sure. So this would be when kind of like in the middle of when you are when you get selected for your project in build day, and the timeline that we've given is sort of more conservative a timeline. So we say October, so but it might be a little bit sooner than that. And for project grants, you will be in the midst of your project. And I know that some might not get an award announcement until around December, so you wouldn't know whether or not you're invited to conference or not. But for those chapters that are awarded after the conference, it would be an invitation to the next conference. And for those who are awarded before that, it would be an invitation to this current year's conference. And that would be comped registration and also recognition at the conference that relates to when you get the award.
Awesome. And then just a note on dates again. So project grants applications, like when's the last day that a chapter could apply? I think that's probably the number one question that we get as CRCs is around timing of when they have to give you all their information and then when they'll hear back. Mostly for grants, I guess build day you just went through, but I just wanted to double check on the grants, like when that last day is for chapters.
Yes, so that'd be December 30th. So the very last day of the year.
Okay, makes sense. And sometimes we also get questions around dues versus project grants. And just wanted to clarify that project grants are not intended to cover dues, it's intended to cover your actual project work, right? And that's why we have our budgets included in that.
Yes, that's exactly right. I know it kind of muddies the water a bit that you get funding and it may go into like the same pool that you use for your chapter expenses, but it should be specifically allocated just to that project. And we do require at the end of your project to sort of submit like a project budget report on how you actually use the funding, just so we kind of have that transparency that the funding is going to where it's going to be actually used.
And are there requirements around also putting information in our project database or otherwise? I mean, it probably goes into the annual report that we have from every chapter, but just curious as to other requirements there.
Yeah, so we do require an interim impact report or a final report in June 30th. Some chapters may need to extend that beyond June 30th, which is totally fine. So it's whenever your project is completed. But that is a submission into the project database. And we also have a separate guidelines for project grants and build day that you must fulfill. So that's addition to the annual project report that you do for ESW chapters every year, but there's also more stringent requirements, more detailed requirements for both of those programs.
Awesome. Are there any other oh, go ahead, Molly.
Yeah, I might have missed this, but I'm curious to know how many chapters each year are awarded both the project grants and build day.
So for build day, it is restricted to no more than 4 projects a year. And for project grants, it really does range based on the amount of funding we have, but I would say on average, it would be around 6 projects or so. Although we funded more projects, it really depends on the amounts that everyone's are requesting.
Awesome, thank you.
Are there any other commonly kind of sort of FAQs you get around build day or project grants you think be helpful to talk through?
Mainly just, the types of projects that we support. Project grants, it's pretty loose about what kinds of projects we have, as long as it's related to our mission, our core values, and our mission statement that you can read on our website, then anything that kind of lines. And then for build day, we have a much more detailed call for proposal guidelines that goes into what exactly we're looking for and sample projects and everything. That's also something we could send out and would probably take a lot longer than the time we have to kind of go over.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think through other questions that I commonly get every year, but I think I think you're right. I think a big category is what projects are covered. And I think for Build Day, that community aspect, I think also comes up sometimes, and like making that distinction versus a project also.
Yeah, for sure. So community aspect really what it boils down to is anything that's kind of off campus and working with a specific local or community partner. So we classify as that anyone who's part of an NGO or a nonprofit organization. Those are typically the community-based partners. So community, like corporate partners wouldn't really be community-based partners. If they do have like an office, for example, in a community, we wouldn't really classify that as a community partner. It should be those that are most underserved and underrepresented in the community. And that usually does come from more grassroots organizations or nonprofit serving organizations.
If a chapter has a question or wants to chat through whether or not the idea they have might qualify better for Build Day or project grants, do you have any suggestions? Can they reach out to someone? Obviously, like CRCs are always available to chat through that, but maybe someone from the application review team might have a better insight into that.
Yeah, sure. You can email programs@eswusa.org if you have any questions. Also on our programs site of ESW Global, we also have guidelines and examples on our website as well as an FAQ of commonly asked questions. So you can just refer to that, and it also has our contact on there as well. We're more than happy to chat over email or even just set up a separate video call as well if you want to just quickly go over your project. So yeah, we're definitely open to any kind of ideas. If you're not sure if it fits within our guidelines, just let us know. We can make a couple exceptions here and there, but definitely reach out to us if you have any questions, and it can really be anything related to your project.
Awesome. I just typed it in the chat, so hopefully I caught it correctly. Awesome. Any other questions from the group on the phone? I think project grants, I don't know if this was a prior presentation, but I think we've said it's one of the most underutilized resources from ESW HQ. So definitely encourage everyone to think about that as you're going into end of year wrapping up and starting to think about ahead to next year and just including that in your budget. So that was definitely something to keep in mind. Talk to your incoming leadership about as well. Make sure it's on their radar. I have been recording this session, so I'll make that available to everyone. And Sean also mentioned he'll send out the PowerPoint, so that should be helpful as well. But yeah, any last questions? We can end a little bit early if not, but if there are questions, feel free to put them in the chat if you aren't somewhere where you can talk right now, or if you want to come off of mute, also an option.
Also, we have some other chapter chats this summer. I don't know if we mentioned those, but you'll definitely see emails. We'll chat about conference planning and other commonly asked about topics. So be on the lookout for an email from us. We'll have more of these throughout the summer.
Awesome. It's the last call. Perfect. Awesome. So again, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to the programs team. Otherwise, just try and keep it on your radar and look out for some more emails from our team. So thank you so much, Sean, for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, everyone.